What is up, guys? Welcome to episode 3 of Banter from the Bench podcast. I am Kevin. I'm here with Sean. We've got plenty of good stuff to talk about, both national and Chicago related. So let's get into it.
Sounds right.
How's it going, everyone? Appreciate you coming out once again. I know I'm excited for another episode here. It's hard to believe we're on our third episode, but yeah, looking forward. We got a lot of notes and a lot of stuff to talk about, and a lot of stuff's been happening. So, this is the best time to be an established sports podcast like ourselves.
Well established. I think, honestly, if we're going to talk about national news first, I think one of the biggest stories, which comes from one of the least watched sports, is golf. We had a big Scottie Scheffler story break this weekend, which was kind of interesting. I thought it was entertaining. It was an entertaining way to start. What was it? Saturday morning. This all happened.
I think Friday morning, I believe.
Yeah, you're right. It was Friday morning. So yeah, Sean, if you want to recap, what you noticed from that story.
Yeah, so, tournament started. It was the PGA Championship at Valhalla. Started Thursday, everything was normal. And then woke up Friday morning to just kind of a little flurry of golf notifications about different things going on with Scottie Scheffler. And I was like, I don't really get golf notifications, so if something's going on here, it must be pretty big. So I started reading into it, and turns out, Scottie Scheffler was arrested on his way to the PGA Championship on Friday morning. And, at the time I was like, whoa, that's a pretty big deal, especially, Scottie Scheffler, who's everyone considers like the world number one right now. He's been on an absolute tear in golf. And, obviously it's a big deal no matter what when you got a professional athlete getting arrested like that. But someone of his caliber right now, that's like crazy. But anyways, just kind of for those who maybe saw it, maybe didn't, he tried to drive around, stop traffic to get to the course on Friday morning. It sounded like he didn't pull the "Hey, I'm Scottie Scheffler" card during any of this. Maybe if he did, especially at that point, maybe things would have been different. But
Which props to him, honestly.
Yeah, that's a stand-up move from him. Not really like, he's not deeming himself more important than stop traffic. There's not many people that would do something like that. They just pull anything they could to get out. But so at that time, he didn't really know what was going on. Just saw that traffic was stopped and he had to get to the course to get ready for his tee time. So I believe I saw he started driving on like a shoulder of a road or something, and the cops tried to stop him, but he kept going a little bit. Well, it turns out that there was a fatal shuttle bus accident that occurred earlier that morning up ahead, which was the reason the traffic was blocked. Now, knowing that, that's a little bit bigger of a deal, which obviously led to the arrest of Scottie Scheffler there. And it seems like, as of now, he's looking at charges of second-degree assault of a police officer, third-degree criminal mischief, and disregarding traffic signals from an officer directing traffic. So obviously it was more than him just getting pulled over. I don't know exactly what his initial interactions were with law enforcement or anything like that, but if he's getting second-degree assault of a police officer, there's obviously maybe something that went on, or maybe it was a misunderstanding too. I'm not going to entirely put this just on Scottie Scheffler. But yeah, so pretty big deal. And now the interesting part is obviously he's getting arrested. He's got a golf Friday morning, right? Well, he made it back in time for his tee time.
Yeah.
Made it back to the course around 8 a.m. and he shot his tee time was a little bit after 10 in the morning. Now, obviously this isn't really a joke or like a funny situation, especially since it was a fatality accident. But Scheffler made a comment where he was like, I had to get ready or stretch in the cell, which was new to me. And I was like, well, at least he has some humor about it. I mean, what else can you do? And then the interesting thing is he did decent Friday. I forget exactly what his score was, but I'm pretty sure he shot under par, which, hey, all things considered, that's pretty impressive. Just given everything that he had going on his mind that day. And then ended the tournament finishing in 8th place, shot 13 under. I believe the winner, Xander Schauffele, I believe won. And he was 21 under. So honestly, not a terrible, I mean, for Scottie Scheffler, he probably is like, that was horrible. But given the situation, like, I would have been like a mess after that. I probably would have shot like, 18 over.
Yeah.
I would have made the cut.
I feel like it's hard to get your mind back in the right place after that. I saw he was hanging out at like 9 under for a large majority of the tournament. And then, obviously things kind of started to unravel later on Saturday and Sunday. But I did see that quote too. I think it was something along the lines of, that's the first time I ever had to stretch in a jail cell. I'm like, okay, I give you some credit for bringing some humor to it. But just a really interesting story in golf, in a sport where without Tiger Woods, you don't get a whole lot of stories out of there anymore. You know what I mean? Like, you have some big tournaments. You have the Masters, the most important one, the Waste Management Open, every single year. But it was just interesting because I remember waking up and I saw the alerts from ESPN, and they wasted no time putting his mug shot out there. And I'm like, wow, okay, this is maybe a pretty big story that we'll have to talk about. So, yeah, kind of an interesting week from golf. But as far as golf goes, that's all we have for those stories. I know right now we've got the NBA playoffs going on, so maybe we jump into some playoff talk. We've got the conference finals right now. We've got the Celtics and Pacers, and the Mavericks and the Timberwolves. I think they're both fun series, in all honesty. I think, the Pacers ended up losing game 1 last night on Tuesday.
They kept that way closer than I thought they were going to, especially with how that game started.
Yeah, I agree with that. And then tonight you've got the Mavericks and the Timberwolves here on Wednesday night. But I mean, what are your early thoughts looking into conference finals?
Yeah, so my I'll do a quick overall thought, and then I guess we could probably jump into Pacers and Celtics because they already started. But overall thought from someone that doesn't really have a dog in the fight, I do root for and support the Timberwolves because they're the local team here. So like if I could pick anyone to win, I'd probably pick them. But here's what I think is really, really cool about this specific set of teams that are playing here in the conference finals is Jason Tatum has a good shot at making it to the NBA finals. Unless Indiana pulls off a little, I'll call it a bit of a miracle here. I think their run's been fun, but I'm going to say it's probably going to end here. And then on the other side, you have Luka Doncic and Anthony Edwards. So what we know for sure is Luka Doncic or Anthony Edwards are going to be playing in the NBA finals. I think that's great for basketball. That's two superstars. One, Luka's well-established superstar. Anthony Edwards has really bursted onto the scene this year, but I think you can consider him a superstar at this point. One of them will have a shot to get a ring. On the other end, you probably have Jason Tatum. He's never won either. Getting him in the finals, I think that's great for the game of basketball. Gives us a little something different and gives these guys a bit of a reward for sticking it out with their teams. Granted, Edwards' situation is a little different. He's 22. He's still young. Barely been in the league. But Doncic and Tatum here sticking it out and really fighting to make it to the finals. Looks like they have a good opportunity to, or one of them at least will, and Tatum has a good opportunity to do that. So I think that's really exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing what the matchup ends up being, but kind of curious on what your overall thoughts just on the conference finals as a whole are too, Kev.
You know what I love about it? I love that you're getting a preview of what the NBA could look like post LeBron. Because if we're being honest with ourselves, LeBron's career is starting to come to a close. I mean, he can still play at a high level. He's still a very productive NBA player, but LeBron's also a competitor, and you don't see the Lakers competing like his Miami Heat teams were competing or his Cavalier teams were competing. And I feel like that's eventually going to get to him. So back to what we were talking about. I like it because now you're starting to see who the future stars of the NBA could be and will be. And, honestly, I got to hand it to Luka. This is a guy that he averaged over 30 points a game this year, 9-9 on top of that. And obviously one of, I would say, top 5 player in the NBA right now, but at the same time, he kind of flies under the radar a little bit. So I think that this is another big way of for him to say, hey, I'm here. I've been here. I'm one of the top players in the NBA, and let me prove it to you. You've got Anthony Edwards, who's just been absolutely dominating the playoffs and letting everybody hear about it along the way, which I think is good for the NBA. I told Sean I didn't love the Jordan part of it when they were talking about Michael Jordan.
Kevin is anti-Anthony Edwards. Just got to get that out there.
This is not true. I think he's good for the NBA.
He hates fun.
Yeah, apparently. You've got Tyrese Halliburton, who's another really young superstar. He's an incredible,
been great too.
Yeah, he's had an incredible year. He's had a great postseason. So I like that you're starting to see some of these younger stars. And then obviously Jason Tatum, he's been good for at least a couple years now. So that's what I like about the playoffs this year. It feels like it's refreshing. It feels like it's fun, because for the longest time it was, who's LeBron going to play in the finals? And before that it was, who are the Celtics going to play? Yeah, Warriors. Or Steph. Exactly. Yeah. And before that was the Celtics, where you had the big three. So I like that it's fun. You kind of have this feeling of like mystery of who's going to make the finals, and you get to enjoy the process along the way. So I'm enjoying it, and I think we'll have a fun conference finals.
Yeah, it's been really entertaining basketball throughout most of the playoffs, and kind of staying along the lines of the conference finals. Obviously the Eastern Conference Finals started. We're recording this on Wednesday. This started last night, and I went into it saying I'll watch it until it's no longer a game. That happened really quickly. And so I flipped on something else. I think it was maybe the White Sox or something that I was watching. But then I saw at halftime the game was still close. So I was like, okay, I'll tune in. And then I ended up watching the whole game, and it went to overtime. And it was really really entertaining. I got to give the Pacers a lot of credit. They're just playing so well. Like, obviously they're a 6 seed, and like, Boston is still a very good team. They've been very good for a few years. Indiana, anything they're doing right now is like icing on the cake. They've already made a statement this postseason, but what they continue to do night in, night out, the way they're scoring is insane. They're averaging, going into the series, we're averaging about 100, just over 114 points per game in the playoffs, and they got 4, maybe 5 guys who are getting double digits a night for you, which is just, it's so fun to watch. They play unselfish basketball. They spread it out really well. Tyrese Halliburton, obviously he had a phenomenal year this year. He's been great in the playoffs too. Unfortunately, they lost last night, and I thought for them, if they were going to really make this a series, it was going to start with game 1 and game 2, because Boston's down Kristaps Porzingis. So, in my head, I was like, okay, Miles Turner, he could be big difference maker for him early on. They could maybe win a game, or maybe even win both. Adding him into the mix and him being able to really dominate would help him out tremendously. But I mean, he did that he had over 20 points last night, but you started to see a little bit of the inexperience from the Pacers creep in last night too. Turnovers down the stretch really hurt them. They had a couple opportunities to put that game away in regulation and just handed it back to the Celtics on a silver platter. And a team like them, they made the most of it. I believe it was Jaylen Brown hit a 3 at the end of regulation to put it to overtime. And then fast forward a couple minutes later in overtime, Pacers were down about 3 or something like that. And they had another tough turnover. Tatum goes down and hits a 3, and then that's your ball game. It's like, sure, it was fun seeing them, keep it that competitive, but then that inexperience showed in, and got a little careless with the ball, and now maybe game 2 is a must win for them if they really want to have a shot in this series, especially before Porzingis gets back. But at least they're still showing they got some fight in them, and they can compete with at least most teams. I would say they competed pretty damn well with arguably one of the top teams, if not the top team in the NBA last night.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. One thing I can't settle on, and I've felt this way a lot of this year and part of last year too, is Jaylen Brown as a player. Obviously, he's very talented. I just think he can be a little too streaky for my liking. You'll see certain nights he'll go and drop 40 points, and then he has a rough night shooting the next night. How do you feel about Jaylen Brown?
I like him. He's a fun player. I think he fits really well in Boston.
Yeah.
He's been doing pretty good this postseason. I know heading into the series, let's see. He's averaging about 23 and 6 a game, which you'll take that. Obviously he gets paid a lot of money, so maybe you wish he would give you a little bit more scoring or something like that. But, he's an all-around player, so even if he's not scoring like he has in the past or giving you a lot of points, he's impacting the game at multiple levels. The one player, no, I don't know, maybe I'm ignorant for not watching a lot of the Celtics this year, but the one person I've been surprised about in the playoffs for them is Derek White. He's averaging 18 points a game in the playoffs.
He's balling.
I didn't know he had that in him. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, he's balling. I think that's the case of right place, right time too. You know what I mean? If you put Derek White on some of these other playoff teams, maybe he's not going to put up the numbers that he's putting up. But when you've got the weapons that Boston has, especially when Porzingis is healthy, I mean, you add in Porzingis to the mix, and it's lethal. But it's been fun to watch him because it's almost like his second coming of his career, right? He's just going out there. He's just giving them good minutes, giving them good points, and knowing his role, which is most important. Now, if we look at the other side and we talk about Western Conference, I know this is the one that you're way more passionate about because you've got your Timberwolves here in the mix. But what are your thoughts? I mean, it starts tonight, so we've got game one
tonight.
What are you thinking? What's going to happen? Let's lay a prediction down. I want you to lay a prediction down and tell us what you think.
Oh, this is when we lose the listeners. Let's do this prediction part, but let's do it for Eastern too. We'll predict both. Okay. Eastern Conference Finals. I can go first unless you want to. I'll let you go first. Okay. Eastern Conference Finals. I'm gonna say Boston wins in 5. I think Indiana will get a game. I don't know when it'll be, if it's game 2 or they get one at home. I think they get one. I'm going to say Boston wins. I'm going to say it's fairly easily the rest of the way. And I'll say they take it in 5.
I'll say 6. I'll say Boston in 6. I think the Pacers are going to win the next game. I think it's going to be tied 1-1. I think Boston's going to go up 3-1. And then I think that's when the Pacers are going to win their second game. It's going to go 3-2, and then Boston puts them away, and it's 4-2. So I'll say 4-2 in 6 games.
I like that. I like that a lot. All right, so Western Conference Finals. Yeah, we got Mavericks versus Timberwolves, and before we get into this, we got to give the Timberwolves some freaking credit, man. Went up 2-0.
Of course we do.
They went up 2-0. And then they were down 3-2, and it's like all of a sudden they're down 3-2 to the defending champs. It's like they're dead. So they win Game 6. Game 7, they're down 20 points. At one point, they come back and win. Like, I was watching Game 7, and when they came back, I was like, this might be a team of destiny. It really might be. The fact that they are still here and still alive after seemingly being completely written off when Denver made a comeback, like, that's crazy that they're even here right now.
Yeah, it's like that Raptors team that won not long ago, right? But it's funny because when I was watching the last series, you see Jokic, and the running joke is like, that man just wants to be with his horses. And it's like, okay, You were up 3-2 in the series, bro. Like, come on. You had every way to put them away, especially being up 20 in Game 7. And so I think it's funny that the running joke is like, hey, man, Jokic just wanted to be with his horses. But I think you're right. I think Minnesota is just one of those things where they're the right team at the right time, and they're getting hot. And Anthony Edwards is playing really well. I mean, they're even getting good bench scoring too right now. You've got Cat. I know, was it Naz Reid?
Naz Reid, yep.
Naz Reid the other night.
He's got a cult following, dude. It's unbelievable. They love him.
He's playing nice in the postseason. So I'll let you dive deeper because this is your team. But do you want to throw the predictions in now or after?
We'll do it after. We'll just
Okay.
talk about the series, and then we can get to all the fun stuff later.
And then I've got your fun nugget for you too.
So, all right. I think this is going to be a pretty good series. Dallas is not a team to overlook, especially with the way that Kyrie and Doncic are playing, especially Kyrie. He's kind of, you talk about an afterthought. He's been a little bit of an afterthought for a few years now. He's playing excellent freaking basketball this postseason, man.
Yep.
Kyrie's putting up 21 points a game, 5 assists per game, on 48% from the field and 44% from three. That's crazy how effective he's been from three. Doncic is doing Doncic things. He's putting up 27, 9, and 9 in the playoffs, and they're showing the ability to be able to score with the best of them. Timberwolves, they're doing the similar stuff here. Obviously, you got Anthony Edwards, who's averaging just under 29 points a game. You got Cat averaging 18 points a game. You got Rudy averaging 12 and 10 right now. Jaden McDaniels, I believe, is averaging 18 as well. They got some well-rounded scoring. They're getting contributions from a lot of guys. So when you look at, Kyrie and Doncic versus like Anthony Edwards and Jaden McDaniels, those are kind of be the interesting matchups. It sounds like Anthony Edwards is going to take on Kyrie, which makes me believe McDaniels will take on Luka. So that'll be interesting. I would like McDaniels is definitely the better defender than Edwards. But seeing him and Kyrie go at it, I think is going to be freaking really exciting. But this should be a really competitive series. Minnesota, they're favored. Obviously, they have home court advantage, which is huge. The one thing I like about Minnesota in this series is they got bigs. They got Rudy Gobert and Karl Anthony Towns. And then obviously they got, I know where you're going. Obviously they got Naz Reid, who's a little bit undersized too, but that's three bigs that are a lot better than what Dallas has down low. So I think that, trust me, it hurts to say that. It really does, but that's three. We'll get to all this in a little bit, but that's three bigs that should be a pretty big impact players for Minnesota there. And then obviously you factor in, what Anthony Edwards can do, and really it's going to come down to just how much I'm not even going to say stop because it's impossible, how much they can limit Kyrie and or Luka, because that's going to be their tough task of the series. Now I think it's going to be pretty close. I think most games are going to be pretty close. I do like the Timberwolves here. I'm going to say the Timberwolves take it in 6.
Okay. I don't hate that. I think they're, like I said, they're the hot team right now. Right team, right time.
My hot take too, sorry to interrupt you. I think Rudy Gobert is going to have an absolutely massive series. I think he is going to be a huge impact in this series.
Until the Mavericks put in Daniel Gafford.
Big
and
Dan
he
Dan.
shuts it down.
For those who obviously are watching this and they're like, why, what is so funny? We used to love Daniel Gafford when he was in Chicago. So he's a Dallas Maverick now. He moved on to greener pastures. Our boy, he's in the conference finals. We knew he would be, but we thought it'd be for a different team. But anyways, that's what we're getting at here. But I'll let you keep going, Kev.
That's 2 years in a row now for the Mavericks, isn't it?
In the conference finals?
Yeah.
I honestly don't know. I don't know if they made it last year or not.
I know they beat the hell out of the Suns.
What's the best part about recording a podcast on a computer?
You can look it up.
I got Google. Let's see here.
Yeah, I remember the series against the Suns last year, and the Suns fans were all butthurt about it. But
you're right. Yeah, that was a pretty heated series.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah, I go back and forth on this one. For me personally, I think it's the Timberwolves also, and I think it's going to be in 7, just because Luka is playing out of his mind right now. Dallas is playing well as a team as a whole, but if I keep telling myself right team, right time, then I'd be crazy not to pick the Timberwolves. So I think it's in 7. I think the Timberwolves win this one. What did you find on the Mavericks last year?
They did not even make the playoffs.
Was it the year before?
They were in the conference finals against the Warriors. So, yes,
That's
they
what it
played
was.
the Suns that year. That was the semifinals. They won in 7. Luka low-key became a villain that series, and I liked it.
That's what it was, yeah. And I remember that series, obviously, being in Arizona myself, and I'm like, wow, this team is hot right now. And obviously it didn't last, but just with that series alone, that's what it feels like the Timberwolves are right now. It's just like they have one mission, and anybody in their way better get the hell out of the way. And that's kind of the mentality that Anthony Edwards is taking right now. And I'll give you my Anthony Edwards nugget right now if you're ready for it.
Can Jordan guard him? Hell no.
No,
What's
the
your
whole bring you ass.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you look up the website?
Yeah, it's like the Minnesota tourist website now.
If you go to bringyouass.com, that's exactly what it is. I don't know if anybody can see that, but it's Explore Minnesota. So I have to give props to them that they bought that website at the right time.
Capitalizing.
Props to Explore Minnesota for doing that, because Anthony Edwards is stealing the show in the NBA right now, and they're basically taking the headlines and saying, hey, if you want to come visit Minnesota and see what Minneapolis is all about, well, go to bringyouass.com and you can explore Minnesota.
Yeah, for those who missed it, after Game 7 against the Nuggets, Charles Barkley was interviewing Anthony Edwards on the court, and he was just like, hey, Ant, we're going to be spending like 5 nights in Minnesota or Minneapolis. Can you send me a list of restaurants to check out while I'm there? And Anthony Edwards on live television goes, bring your ass. And so they've just run with it. There's shirts. I mean, they couldn't have printed shirts fast enough. He just handed them a ton of marketing material, and they rose to the occasion and they just ran with it. It's pretty funny to see, but yeah, that's it's just, it goes to show, man, like people are excited in Minneapolis about this team and where they've gone, and they're about to play here in about 10 minutes, and I think it's going to be a pretty rowdy arena, but it'll be a fun one. Dallas is definitely going to come to play, and Dallas is going to have a tough environment too when they get back there. They love their Mavericks, man. And just kind of looking at this series too, I know both of us predicted the Timberwolves to win at the same time too, man. Like, all it takes is one guy to will your team to victory in the playoffs. Like, it's possible. If anyone can do that, it's Luka. I would take Luka like as the player left in the playoffs to be able to single-handedly push the team to victory. So you can't. I know I talked a lot about Kyrie, but obviously you cannot overlook him either. He's unbelievable.
No, he's one of those players that he can willingly turn on the Jets whenever he wants to. Like he'll just kind of kick back, put up a cool 30 points. You may or may not notice, but if his team needs him, he's like, oh, you guys need 45 tonight? All right, cool, I got you. And I don't know, it'll be an entertaining series to watch. And honestly, you've got 2 good cities in the game. You've got Dallas, you've got Minneapolis. I know Minneapolis is ultra excited because they haven't been this good since the Kevin Garnett era. So this is second most wins in franchise history. First being that Garnett, I believe it was 2003-2004 season. This is the last time they've been in the conference finals since then too. So they're going to be ready to go, man. And I know it's been fun seeing Kevin Garnett's been very vocal about supporting them too. So it's been cool to see that too. And it seems like Dallas just shows up for the playoffs regardless. I mean, when you have Mark Cuban as your owner, how do you not? But anyways, speaking of Dallas, we've got some hockey talk too.
Dallas is the place to be.
Yeah, apparently. So I'm going to let you dive into the hockey talk. It seems like both of these series are entertaining, or should be entertaining. So I'll let you dive into it.
Yeah, so just like the NBA here, and I'm just double checking a score. I believe we got a hockey game that starts tonight too. I could be wrong about that. Yeah, Panthers and Rangers, Eastern Conference Finals. They're meeting. They just started. It's 5 minutes into the game, 0-0, so nothing really to report there. But yeah, we'll start with the Eastern Conference Finals here. You got two teams that have a pretty good amount of playoff experience lately. Florida's definitely got a little bit more. They made some deeper runs. So kind of looking at the numbers here, it should be a pretty exciting series. Florida, not that the regular season means everything, but Florida picked up 2 regulation wins during the regular season. So they had a 2-1 record against the Rangers. This postseason, Florida's played in 11 games, and the Rangers have played in 10. Rangers, they are killing it on special teams. They're converting 31.4% of their power plays, which is excellent, and they are killing off about 90% of their penalties, which is fantastic too. Florida, they're a big physical team. They're going to rough you up. They bring a lot of playoff experience to the table. They got some guys who are playing pretty well too. You got Kachuk, who's got 14 points this postseason. Barkov, he's not far behind with 13. And then you got guys like Verhaeghe, who's got 11 points. Reinhardt's got 9, and Verhaeghe also has 6 goals to lead the team. Rangers got depth too. You got Zibanejad and Trocheck with 14 points each. You got Kreider, Panarin, and Lafreniere with 10 points each, and Kreider's got 10 goals to lead the team. So you're getting a lot of scoring. You're getting a lot of contributions from a lot of guys on both sides of the team. Perhaps the most exciting part of this series is the goaltending. Both goalies are playing great hockey. Shesterkin for the Rangers this postseason's 8-2. He's got a 2.40 goals against average, and he's got about a 92.3% save percentage. And then you got Bobrovsky for Florida. He's 8-3 with a 2.37 goals against average, and he's got about a 90.2 save percentage. So got some similarities there between both teams in terms of the depth and the goaltending they have. I think it's going to be a fun series. You got one team like the Panthers, who I was saying are big and physical, and then you got another team like the Rangers, who are playing fast and doing some damage on the rush. So it should be pretty entertaining series. I'm gonna say the Rangers take this one, and I'm gonna say it's gonna go. I'm gonna say they'll take it in 7. I think this is gonna be back and forth. I don't think there's ever really gonna be a point in a series where one team has a lot of momentum. I think it's gonna be a night by night type of series where teams are just trading haymakers, not literally, but just going back and forth, and I think it should be pretty damn entertaining hockey. So I'll taking Florida, and I think they take it in 7 there. I'm not sure if you had anything you wanted to add or anything you want to contribute there.
I am taking the Rangers in 6 because Artemi Breadman Panarin, I miss you, and you are going to play out of your mind this series. Rangers in 6, book it. You heard it here first. Okay, next series, Sean.
All right, so we're both on to the Rangers. So I got 7, you got 6, and other side of the bracket here, we got the Dallas Stars and we got the Edmonton Oilers. On paper, I think Dallas probably wins this one. I think Dallas is the Stanley Cup favorites left out of any of the 4 teams. Dallas is playing great. They have been freaking battle tested in the playoffs to even get here. They beat Vegas in 7, and they beat the Colorado Avalanche in 6. Both of those teams could have won the Stanley Cup. They knocked them out. That's pretty damn impressive. So I'll give Dallas a lot of credit there. Now, similarly to how I was preaching about basketball, we're playing the Edmonton, or I say we. I know I'm wearing green, but damn it, I don't play for the team. Dallas is playing Edmonton. I kind of want to see Connor McDavid get a crack at his Stanley Cup. That's like one of the only things left on that dude's resume is to play for a Stanley Cup and hopefully win one. And he's probably the most talented guy in the NHL. It'd be fun to see him on the biggest stage. I don't think it's going to happen. Obviously, Edmonton can score like crazy. They've played 12 games this postseason. Now let me run through some stats for you. 12 games, keep that in mind. Draisaitl has 24 points this postseason. McDavid has 21. Bouchard has 20. And then they have Nugent Hopkins with 16 points and Hyman with 13 points, also leading the team with 11 goals included there. That's a lot of freaking scoring and a lot of points there. So that's obviously that's not going to be a huge problem for them. With a team as equipped like that, they obviously do very, very well too on the power play, where they're scoring on 37% of their power plays this postseason and killing off 91. Two fantastic numbers for them there. Now, the problem that they're going to run into is Dallas is a freaking really good team. Obviously, any team here is right now that's left is good, but it seems like Dallas is in a little bit of a class of their own here. And one big reason for Dallas being so good is goaltending. They got Jake Ottinger this postseason. He's 8-5 with 2.09 goals allowed per game, and he's got a 91.8 save percentage. So you look at a team like Edmonton that can score like crazy. They're running into a wall here, which is going to limit some of the damage they could do. I think even if Ottinger plays okay, like Dallas is still probably sitting in a good spot there. The one concern I have for Dallas is their penalty kill has been rough. They've killed off 69% of their penalties this postseason. So when
Best
you look
place
at
to be.
So when you look at a number like that, and you look at a team like Edmonton, you do not want to give them a man advantage. And they get a couple of those a game, that could be the difference in turning momentum here for the series. But overall, I like Dallas. I would guess Dallas wins in 6. I even think it's going to be 5. Edmonton's goaltending, talk about the other team there, not nearly as good. Skinner has gotten the bulk of the work for them. He's allowing about 2.87 goals per game and saving about 88.1% of the shots in 10 games there. And Dallas has got some guys that can score too. They got Heiskanen with 13 points, Robertson with 12 points, Johnston with 11, and then some of their veterans like Sagan and Jamie Benn, they have 8 points each, and they're all doing that in about 13 games. So a lot of those guys are putting up a point per game or better. Some of them are putting it up close to it. So I just think out of all the teams left, Dallas is the most well-rounded. They're the most equipped to win not just this series but the Stanley Cup. In Edmonton's goaltending situation, I have a hard time believing they're going to be able to overcome that. So I'm going to take Dallas here, and I'm going to guess it's going to be in 6 max.
Okay, I like it. I'm going to take Dallas in 5, and reason being, I took the Timberwolves over the Mavs, so I'm going to give Dallas this one. I also just honestly, I've seen plenty about Ottinger. He is playing out of his mind right now. And we know how far good goaltending can take you in the Stanley Cup playoffs. I mean, look at what the Blackhawks were relying on. Yes, they had Patrick Kane. Yes, they had Jonathan Toews. But at the end of the day, they had good goaltending in every single one of those cup runs, and it makes a huge difference. Plus, I mean, you just look at, like you said, Dallas is battle-tested. They beat Vegas. Yes. They beat Colorado. Yes. I think they just reach a point this series where they're just like, listen, we're tired of going 6 games. We're tired of going 7 games. Why can't we just beat them in 5? I mean, I don't think they're going to sweep them, but why can't we just beat them in 5? And I think that's the mentality they're going to have going into this, to where they're just going to be like, you know what? Let's quit messing around. Let's just play good hockey. Let's not shoot ourselves in the foot and see what we can get out of it. And I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I'm just going to say Dallas in 5 and hope to God I look good on future episodes, but I don't know. It'll be an interesting one. Did you have anything else to add before we start diving into Chicago sports?
No, I think we're all good there. I think we kind of beat these conference finals down pretty good, I guess. I mean, this would be something off script that we didn't even plan on talking about, but there was some. We could talk about Jaden Rashada in Florida if you want. It's kind of some decently big like national news. So this actually came out, I think, today or maybe yesterday. Jaden Rashada, former Miami commit, former Florida commit, former Arizona State player, and now Georgia Bulldog, is taking Billy Napier to court because he's using the term fraud, saying that he wasn't paid what he was promised, and he is suing Florida's football coach over that. Kevin, if you want to chime in first, I'll let you share your thoughts on what this situation is, what you think of it. I think the one thing we can say too before we get into this is this is the first time we're seeing something like this, and this is the times we're in now with NIL where this might not be the only case we see come up. He might be starting a trend here, but I'll let you get into your thoughts on the situation.
Yeah, I think one of two things is going to happen. Either he's going to settle or he's going to lose in court. And I think it's an interesting storyline. I heard he was supposed to be owed $1 million. 500,000 of that was supposed to be due at signing, and he never got his money. We don't know what's true and what's not right now to say anything for sure. But I this one's tough for me because I've heard that there have been some issues with, is it the Gator Collective? Is that the group that was supposed to owe him money?
Yeah.
I've heard that there's been issues with them in the past. Now, being a Miami fan, all the media that I read is Miami Hurricanes stuff. So I don't know if this is just Miami Hurricanes fans stirring the pot or if there actually are issues with it. But we live in a generation where things with NIL can happen quickly and can fall through the cracks quickly, especially when you're talking about the kind of money that they're throwing around here. If I had to give you my gut reaction on it, I would say he's in the wrong. I don't think Jaden Rashada is going to win in court if they take it to court. You just look at his history, his history of jumping teams, his history of constantly changing his mind. And I don't think he has a case. I mean, what are your thoughts? You read more Gator media than I do, so I'll kind of let you dive in a little bit deeper here.
Jaden Rashada, if you're listening to this podcast, the only thing fraud should be associated with is your word on these schools you commit to. You're on like your fourth in 1 year. But I think nothing's going to happen. When I say nothing's going to happen, I don't think Florida's going to be punished. No. From what I've gathered, it sounds like he had an agreement with the collective. Now, that is not Billy Napier. That is not the University of Florida. That is a separate entity. That's a separate LLC. They should be the ones that maybe get looked at here in this situation. Now, my initial reaction, I kind of laughed a little bit about it. I'm sure whatever, supposedly he had a contract with Florida. I've heard there was like monetary values exchanged, whatever. I've also heard that in this contract, it might have stated that either party could leave at any time. So there's always that possibility. And now here's the thing that really makes me not take this super seriously. Now, I could look like an idiot and this could be a big deal and Florida could get hammered, whatever. Yeah, number one, coaches lie to players all the time. It's just sad, but it's true. Yeah. Kids, they promise the world to these kids, so they come there, and then the kids learn quickly, hey, this is a little bit different. It's not quite what I was promised. And then that's when kids want to leave. Anyways.
Cormani McLean.
Who's now at Florida.
Yeah.
I think it's very, 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 very weird and very, very questionable. This is coming out when he's at Georgia. He's been at Georgia for 2 weeks-ish. Like, why now? And in the story that came out about this, there is a quote where he said, I talked to Kirby Smart about it, and he gave me his blessing. Why do you need Kirby Smart's blessing to go at another school? Maybe he's not getting as much money as he thought he was going to get from Georgia, and he's looking to recoup some NIL deal, or maybe these transactions are falling out because he keeps leaving schools. It's just weird to me, and it's like for a Florida fan, like I thought this saga with this kid was over. Obviously there was a little back and forth before, and then he left and he went to ASU, and I was like, all right, whatever, it's over. It's like it just seems like this is never going to end at this point, and I just have a hard time believing he's going to actually win something in court. It seems like a lot of people, not just Florida, some more national guys too, are kind of like, I don't know if this is smart for him. Like, what is he doing? Like, did he do this on his own? Did he have an actual attorney tell him he should do this? Because this doesn't seem like the smartest idea. So, I don't know. We'll see.
No. But yeah, I think he came after Billy Napier for one thing and one thing only, headlines. I think that's it. That's the only reason Billy Napier was also included in this. And it's kind of funny because I remember his recruitment. I was all excited when we landed Jaden Rashada. I'm like, oh, yeah, we've got our quarterback of the future. We're good to go. he goes and transfers to Florida. And I was texting Sean before that, telling him, like, I think he's going to leave. I think he's going to go to Florida. Sure enough, he did. Sean got a little excited about it and then saw what kind of mess he's just creating. So this is way too early to even say this, but it's still going to apply. Even if he has a productive college career, he is hurting his NFL draft stock right now.
Yeah.
He is wrecking his NFL draft stock right now. So he better enjoy college, because unless he puts up Heisman years and wins championships, like, man, the chances of him getting drafted at this point are slim to none. So Jaden Rashada, that's all the time we're going to give you today, because you're the piece of work and that's all you deserve. So see you later, buddy.
Riding the bench at Georgia.
Yeah, see you later, buddy. Okay, so now we're going to transition into Chicago sports. I think a couple of these we can kind of just glaze over since we're at the 45-minute mark right now. But I think a good place to start is the Bulls. You saw some, we can just call them mini headlines this week, where the Bulls hiring Wes Unseld and Dan Craig as assistant coaches under Billy Donovan. Unseld himself did spend time as an assistant with the Wizards, Warriors, Magic, and Nuggets before he got a head coaching job with the Wizards in 2021. He kind of had a pivotal role in turning Denver's defense from 28th in the league to 10 in literally just one season. So obviously he's got proven track record. He had been crediting and helping with the development of Jokic, of Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray. So I think it's a nice name to add to the coaching staff. I mean, at the very least, if something happens and we say, see you later, Billy Donovan, it's another guy we can consider in a head coaching search. But the other name, Dan Craig, don't have as much on him. He did spend some time under Eric Spoelstra in Miami and under Tyronn Lue when he was with the Clippers. So I think good additions to the staff. I mean, it's not anything that's major, but if it can help our roster, considering we're probably not going to change anything with that roster, great. Sounds good to me.
Yeah. I think especially the Wes Unseld Jr. hire it's not going to make a significant difference for the Bulls, but it certainly helps. Not only did he transform Denver from 28th team defense to 10th in one season, but after that jump to 10, they were a top 6 defensive team in the NBA in defensive efficiency for 4 consecutive years. So he didn't just jump them up; he kept them going too. And the Bulls obviously need help defensively. They were 22nd in defensive rating last year. If it weren't for Alex Caruso, who knows? They might have been worse than the NBA. He's, by the way, shout out to him, second team all defensive team, whatever, NBA. Second team all defense. There it is. Get it out. Come on.
Eventually get there, Sean.
Yeah, so he was named to that this week too. But yeah, I mean, and then Craig, he worked under Spo. Spo's a great coach. Doesn't hurt to have a guy who's came up in the Miami Heat organization come to your team, because obviously the Heat do things right too. Everyone talks about Heat culture, and I believe Craig, started out in like video and worked his way up to being on the bench in Miami. So the dude's seen it all there, and that's a good organization to see it all from. So do I think it will make the Bulls significantly better? No, but do I think it helps? Yeah, cool. Maybe we'll find the next Jokic, and then we'll be good.
Man, you better wake up from those daydreams. Yeah, that's really it for Chicago in terms of like the Chicago Bulls news. We're kind of in the slow part of the season right now. So, well, if you're not in the postseason, you are.
I will say though, they've had news every week. Like, if there's one consistent thing with this podcast so far, the Bulls have done something every week.
Yeah, I know DeRozan had something about how his time with the Raptors messed him up. But yeah, I think we've got
what the Bulls did.
Yeah, right. Same. I think we've got a lot more to talk about when you look at the White Sox.
Oh yeah.
I saw some report this week. I want to say it was Jeff Passan who mentioned Luis Robert or he linked Luis Robert and the Mariners. I don't hate that idea. I really don't. I think he'd be fun on the Mariners. I don't know what the I don't know what the hell
Him
the
and
White
Julio
Sox
in
would
the
do.
same outfield. Oh my Lord.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you just put those two out there. You don't even need a third outfielder.
For real.
But I don't know what the hell the White Sox would do in the future if you don't at least have a guy like Luis Robert to start to build around. But, you know, in the mindset of us saying, like, tear it down, like, that would be a move to where they do and they start all over again. So,
Yep.
I mean, what are your thoughts on Lou Bob?
So initial takeaways is, it was Jeff Passan went on a radio show in Seattle, and he specifically mentioned Luis Robert as a target for Seattle. Now, there's always going to be talk, especially with the state of the White Sox right now, of should they trade Luis Robert? It's should they trade anyone on their team, anyone that's remotely good. It was Dylan Cease before. He heard it all off season, and then into this year, and then eventually it happened. But I think it is very intriguing that it's Passan saying that stuff. Now, if he comes out and says something like that specifically, it's probably worth listening to at least, because he wouldn't just make that up. Like, I'm sure he's heard from someone that, like, hey, that actually might have legs. It would be awesome to have Luis Robert around on the White Sox for his whole career. I mean, he's a talented dude. You know, he could be the next great Cuban for the White Sox. You know, there's always that pipeline that they have, or that historical pipeline that they have. He could be the next, you know, in line. With that being said, I don't think I don't think he'll want to stick around that long, and B, it's going to take some time for the White Sox to right this ship. As much as you would love him to be a centerpiece and to build around him, I don't think it makes sense to keep him. If you can get a lot of value for him, which you should, you might as well deal him and do right by him and get him on a good team if they're one that's willing to bite. It's going to cost a lot to trade for Luis Robert. I know he's got his injury concerns and stuff like that, but he is a five-tool player, and when he is on, he is one of the most exciting people in baseball. It is going to hurt whatever team trades for him. The Mariners are a team that could pull that off because they got a pretty deep farm system, and it's going to cost a good amount of those guys to go bring Luis Robert over. But, you know, I think it's something the White Sox should really consider, because that is something that could help accelerate their rebuild, or at least, you know, they can start looking at, like, all right, we got all these guys in the mix now. What do we need to add, you know? So it would suck. You know, he's the last, I mean, if you want to count Moncada too, but he hasn't proven as much as Luis has at the major league level. You know, Luis is really all that we got left from the long 2-year contention window in the rebuild that we had. So, you know, it's like, you know, you let go of him and all right, you officially close the book on that. Now, I know he also can be, like, he's young enough to where he could probably be a part of another rebuild, but I think at this point, just wipe your hands clean of everyone that was involved with that last rebuild, because that failed miserably. And if that means trading Luis Robert, then so be it. Would I shed a little bit of a tear? I might. But, you know, it would help. It would help the organization more than him staying around would help the organization, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it just hurts watchability, you know, because he's so fun to watch. I'm looking at MLB.com right now, top farm system rankings. They've got the Mariners ranked as the 18th best farm system. Some of their top prospects include Cole Young, shortstop, second baseman, as the number 37th best ranked prospect in baseball. Harry Ford, he's a catcher. Bring on more catchers, baby. Give us all the catchers. He's the number 38th. And then you've got Colt Emerson, shortstop, second baseman, as the 87th best prospect overall. Those are just highlighting their top three. So the question then becomes, do they have enough in the farm for a trade for Luis Robert, or do they have to include maybe a major league ready arm, a starting pitcher, or something like that? So
yep.
I think that'll definitely have to be part of the package. They'll have to look at starting pitching and say, hey, we want this guy if you want Luis Robert. So it'll be interesting. I mean, there's a ton of headlines here for the White Sox, just with the season happening. I mean, and there's good and bad. You know, like our series with the Yankees, not so great. our series with the Blue Jays has been so far,
It's been
but
horrible.
there's been.
Don't check the score. It's been horrible.
Oh, is it bad? Okay,
Oh,
it's been horrible.
oh.
Rewind. It's been horrible. But there's been quite a bit of movement here in the minor leagues so far. I mean, some of the notes I have, we've got Jacob Gonzalez, Noah Schultz were both promoted to Birmingham. You've got Nick Nastrini called up to the big league club, and Brad Keller, see you later, buddy. So if you just want to talk about, I know Jacob Gonzalez was a guy that we drafted him 2 years ago now, I believe. He wasn't a guy that was – it was last year. Okay. He wasn't a guy that was crazy talented, but I think he's got the tools to be a very productive MLB player. I think he's a prospect that could be interesting to see what he does if you give him a chance in the majors. But, yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the highlights of all the stuff going on for the White Sox right now was Jacob Gonzalez and Noah Schultz going to Birmingham. Now, my initial thoughts are Birmingham is the freaking team to watch right now. They have Noah Schultz, they got Jacob Gonzalez, they got Edgar Quiro, they got Drew Thorpe, they got Jairo Iriarte. I completely botched his name, I'm sure. I'm sorry. Iriarte. They got Jake Eater as well. They got Brooks Baldwin, who's a little bit lesser known of a prospect, but he's a top 30 org guy. So they're flooded, absolutely flooded with top organization prospects. So they're going to be the team to watch. If you're not going to watch the White Sox, tune into the Birmingham Barons. Almost any night you can watch a really good pitcher for them. So yeah, Gonzalez got called up to Birmingham a couple days ago. Like I said, it is Wednesday night when we're recording this. He made his Birmingham debut yesterday, and he went 3 for 5 with an RBI single. I am doing some research like a great podcast co-host that I am, and tonight they're playing again, and he is 2 for 3 with a double and another RBI. You kind of nailed it with your assessment of him. I think he can be a very productive major league player. I don't think he's going to be a star by any means, but I think he could be a solid, just middle infielder for the White Sox. I would guess second base might be his future down the line, but he was kind of looked over last year. He struggled quite a bit too, but this year he's been solid. He slashed 273, 364, and 399 with 7 doubles, 3 home runs, 15 RBIs, 19 walks, and 17 strikeouts with Winston-Salem before he was promoted. And now he's going up to Birmingham, and granted, it's only been 2 games, but he's got 2 multi-hit games now. Okay, that's pretty cool. Yeah. That's exciting. It's a positive development for us.
He's hitting 5 of 8. I mean, in his first 2 games, you can't ask for a much better start than that.
That's math.
That's right. and honestly, I think his biggest kryptonite is he's just not flashy. You know what I mean? That's his biggest kryptonite because he's a very productive player. We've got another guy in the minors that we took last year too. He plays very similar baseball. I have to remember his name. I'll bring it to the next podcast. But he's been lighting up the stat sheet in the minors as well. I think Noah Schultz too. You look at Noah Schultz. He made 7 starts with Winston-Salem, posted a 3.95 ERA, 42 strikeouts, 7 walks, and just over 27 innings. He's going to be a fun one to watch. I think he has the potential to work his way up very quickly. I always say that cautiously because the White Sox have had issues with bringing players up too quickly. So Noah Schultz, go do your thing. It'll be fun to watch you. I'm excited to watch Birmingham. Their roster is just absolutely loaded, so it's going to be a fun one to watch this year. I almost wore this jersey.
Nice, I know where you're going.
Finally say, rest in peace to Eloy Jimenez and your White Sox career.
Yeah.
If you weren't watching, Eloy got injured yet again on Tuesday. I think it was a groin all over again. This guy just cannot stay healthy, man. If he was able to stay healthy, man, the stats that he'd be putting up would be insane. Easily 35, 40 homers every single year. But that's his biggest enemy is just being able to stay healthy. And it always seems to happen on the base paths too. Like the damn dude can't even run the bases without getting injured. Or the field. Yeah, running in general. If baseball didn't include running, this guy would be a perennial all-star.
We need to make a petition to where the MLB needs to have a designated runner where he just stands in the opposite batter's box and takes off when the guy hits it. Eloy is a prime case study subject A for that.
Man, it's just bad. We don't need to give him too much time, but it's just something that I finally am just over it. I'm done. I mean, he can hit the ball as good as anybody on our team, including Luis. But like, dude, if you can't stay healthy, you mean nothing to us. But that brings up another promotion. Yep. You want to talk about Zach Deloach?
Yeah, so Eloy getting hurt made way for the White Sox to call up Zach Deloach, who they got in the Santos trade with, ironically, the Mariners. Trade partners, making things happen, benefiting both teams. So, yeah, they called him up. He is, according to MLB Pipeline, the number 29 organization, or sorry, not 29 organization, 29th prospect in the White Sox organization. It is 7:56. I usually go to bed around 9 o'clock every night, if you can't tell. My brain has shut off, but, you know, I'm doing this for the listeners. I'm powering through. Anyways, back to Zach Deloach. 29th prospect in the White Sox organization. He's been in Charlotte all year where he slashed .268, .355, .343, 3 doubles, 2 home runs, 18 runs driven in, 19 walks, and 36 strikeouts in 38 games. He made his MLB debut as we speak. White Sox are playing the Blue Jays. Let's check on his debut here. It is 9-0 in the bottom of the 6th inning, and he is 0 for 2. But he's a left-handed bat. He's 25 years old. And at this rate, you know what? Hey, we talked about it last week. Let the kids play. So let's see what he can do. And it's just nice having a new face out there. So excited to see what he can do. I know their last promotion with Brian Ramos, he came up and did some good things. Granted, he's hurt right now. Is on a rehab assignment to Charlotte as we speak as well. So it's nice to see them start to call up some more guys and just to see what we got. Like, you know, even if these don't work out, like, hey, at least we gave him a shot and we saw what he could do, whether it was good things or bad things or everything in between. So excited to see what Zach Deloach can do here.
Yeah, we've got the roster space for him. We might as well, you know. And it's funny, we were just talking about Nick Nastrini. I didn't realize he was the starting pitcher tonight.
Yeah,
8 earned runs. No, 8 earned runs, 3.1 innings pitched, 6 walks.
But that's okay, because you know what? Let him figure it out. Like, at least he's trying to figure it out at the major league level. Like, and honestly, like, I know this is a stinker. He really got hit hard. That's going to happen for young guys, especially pitchers. But hey, like, learn from it. You got no pressure being here. You can't ask for a much, like, easier transition to the MLB because the White Sox, A, don't really have people that show up to their home games, and B, you know, our fan base is pretty small and not a whole lot of people are watching them. So, like, just go do your thing and figure out what you need to figure out. And, you know, hopefully you're a mainstay in the rotation next year. But for now, like, don't worry about the stats. Throw some strikes and we'll see what you can do.
Yep. I completely agree. I mean, you talk about learning from it. And before we get into, I'm going to talk about Garrett Crochet and, you know, how he's been playing or pitching lately. White Sox did release a former top 10 pitching prospect, Norge Vera. I remember when we signed Vera, I was excited about that, but
it was a big deal.
Yeah, things just didn't seem to work out. What do you think happened?
You know, I think with him, the first problem he ran into was availability. They always say the best of ability is availability. He was
Eloy.
Yeah, Eloy, Yohan. I mean, if we want to throw Luis in there too. Hey, all of our good players, ironically. Yeah, so Norge Vera just, he was hurt a lot. I want to say he made no more than 13 starts in one season. Been around the org for a few years now. I want to say 3, maybe 4 years. He did really well in rookie ball. Outside of that, he struggled, and he just kind of Never really put it together with the White Sox. I think a team will sign him. I'm sure they'll look at, like, what he has. He throws hard, and they'll be like, hey, maybe we can fix him. It'll probably be the Dodgers, and it'll probably be a Cy Young candidate.
Tampa Bay, dude.
Out. Yeah,
Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay too. But it's it's unfortunate that it didn't work out. People were saying he's going to be a part of the future at one point, but I will say this. It is not, granted, I'm sorry, Chris Getz, if you're listening to this. I didn't think that was the smartest move to hire him for GM. I just thought he kind of just got an opportunity for being with the organization. Now, I will say this. I give him a lot of credit for cutting bait with guys that he really doesn't have ties to. Vera was part of Han when he was in front office. He's gone. Yoelqui Cespedes, same thing. He's gone. So he's not afraid to shake things up a little bit, which is good to see because that's an organization that needs to do that. And before, they would just let guys rot away in the minor leagues for years and years and years. So at least he's kind of cutting the cord early and taking the losses and saying, like, all right, let's get, so-and-so opportunities instead of him because we don't know what so-and-so is. We kind of already know what guys like Norge Vera and Cespedes are. So that's at least good to see.
I do love that he's giving the younger guys an opportunity because for the longest time, I wrote a list. I just left it up in my office. But for the longest time, we are wasting our time giving guys play. Essentially what I'm getting at is lifelong AAA guys were getting way too many chances on the White Sox. And then they just go back to AAA. And then they come back to the White Sox. And now it's like
or they never get a shot.
Or they never get a shot. And with Chris Getz, you're at least seeing him start to give guys a chance. And I appreciate that for him. I mean, I wasn't overly thrilled when Chris Getz was basically handed the job on a silver platter, but
yeah.
I will say my negative opinion of him has started to mellow out a little bit because I like what he's done so far. Now, he's still got a lot of work ahead of him, but so far, Chris Getz, you've done a pretty nice job. So, we'll just keep giving you time and see what this roster looks like. Garrett Crochet, yet another nice outing on Tuesday night against the Blue Jays. I don't think we really need to dive too much into it other than the fact that this guy is just in a groove right now. He is pitching so well. He had a couple rough outings earlier this season, but it seemed like whether it was mechanics or if he's tipping his pitches, it seemed like he figured it out, and he's just in a really nice groove right now.
Yeah, he is starting to come around again. I think with him, obviously anyone that's been following the White Sox knows he came on as a reliever, even though they drafted him as a starting pitcher. And this is his first year being completely stretched out as a starter, and it's kind of been a little bit up and down. I think that was expected, but I didn't think people expected him to be, when he's on, how good he actually has been. He looks like he could be the ace of a team moving forward, and I know we kind of touched on it a little bit last week, but he's an interesting case for, do you trade him or do you keep him? Because the one thing the White Sox do have a stockpile of right now is pitching. So it's like, do you want to see what he can get you on the open market and test those, or not in the open market, in the trade market and test those waters, or do you want to keep him around because he looks like he could be a huge benefit, to the White Sox? But it's interesting, especially as we get closer to summer, middle of summer, because obviously the All-Star game's coming up, and seems like the White Sox only representative is going to be a pitcher. And it's looking like that was going to be Eric Fetty. Now, he's struggling a little bit. I just pulled up his stats here. He's got a 3.10 ERA, 58 innings pitched, 52 strikeouts, and 15 walks. So still good season. He's just been getting hit around a little bit lately. Garrett Crochet.
And maybe he's just experiencing a Garrett Crochet stretch,
Garrett Crochet may be pushing the envelope for being that possible all-star now. His season stats as we speak, 11 starts, 3.75 ERA, 57.2 innings pitched, 74 strikeouts, 13 walks. So obviously nice. ERA is still a little bit ballooned from some of his rough outings, but he's bringing it back down to that 3 mark. I always say, like, these days with how good hitters and stuff are, if you're floating around 350, like you're a pretty damn good pitcher. So
To all MLB teams, we are open for business.
yeah,
Call us. Let us know what you want. We're in that trade mentality again, which is so toxic but so fun at the same time. Yeah, no, I like what he's done. How many years does he have left on his contract? Do you know?
who's that?
Garrett Crochet.
Oh, he's got a few. Let's see if I can find out here.
The reason I asked that question because if he looks this good right now in his first full season as a starting pitcher, imagine how good of a pitcher he could be after this first full season is under his belt, because he dealt with some injuries too.
Yep.
Had a procedure. So like if you look at a guy like Garrett Crochet, let's say he puts in a mid-3 ERA season, let's call it 3.5 ERA season, and continues at the pace he's continuing right now. He's got 2 years left on his deal. This could actually be a really big return for the White Sox, because imagine the value he brings into next season and the year after. So it'll be an interesting one to monitor. Did you see if he has multiple years left?
Yeah, I'm looking here.
Okay.
It looks like he won't be a free agent until 2027.
Oh my God. So even more. Okay. So yeah, if you look at a guy like Garrett Crochet, he should give you a big return if you're willing to trade him, because you've now got what, let's call it 2.5, 3 years left on his contract. So who knows? I mean, I don't know if he's untouchable to get, but it's definitely going to be something to monitor. And the more he continues to shove, the better it is for the White Sox one way or another. End of White Sox talk. We don't really have too much to go into with the Bears. They started OTAs. Oh man, did you see that video of Caleb Williams today throwing to DJ Moore? And there was another one too. Who did he threw it to? It was
Number
14. Yeah, it was a tight end from the Chargers. I'm drawing a blank on his name right now. Yeah, Gerald Everett. There were two really nice videos the Bears put out with OTAs. And of course, it's going to be limited footage just to get people hyped up, but God, he looks so good.
You know what the start of OTAs is, right?
What?
It's the start to the Super Bowl run.
That's right. You heard it here first.
Super Bears Super Bowl. I love overreacting to practice clips, and I'm just, in all seriousness, no, it's just nice to see Caleb Williams throwing the football in a Bears uniform and the team getting back together. And football's in the air, man. It's, a couple months from now we're gonna have preseason games, and next thing you know, we're gonna be painting our nails and painting our faces for his NFL debut against the Titans. So
I already ordered my Caleb Williams shirt, and I liked how easy that looked to him. When you watch the footage of the practice today at OTAs. Now, one guy we had to get rid of so we could bring Caleb Williams in, Justin Fields. I bring this up because an interesting quote came out. It was either last night on Tuesday or today, but he had a quote about Ryan Poles, and this is from Brooke Pryor of ESPN. He was talking to Justin Fields in the locker room, and Justin Fields said, "Shout out to Poles. We communicated to him through my agent, and I told him where I wanted to be, and this was the place that I wanted to be. So he honored that, and I appreciate him for that, and glad that he was able to put me in a spot where I wanted to be at." Honestly, it's one of those things. Yeah, it's one of those things where we could tell at one point we weren't going to get a ton back for Fields. So if this makes him happy and we get a 6th rounder instead of a 5th, or a 7th instead of a 6th, whatever, that's fine. We weren't going to get a huge return to begin with. A lot of people are in Justin Fields' corner, not necessarily against the Bears, but just with Justin Fields as a person. So the way I see it is
they were against the Bears.
Well, yeah, but I'm wondering how much of that was just actually BS. But I like this move by Poles because with Justin having as many people in his corner as he does, what happens down the road when we go to sign a free agent? Mm-hmm. And let's say they're really close with Justin Fields, and let's say it's an edge guy that we really need, or a cornerback or a safety.
Yep.
And they ask Justin, "Hey, what was your experience like in Chicago?" Justin can now say, "You know what? They did me right. It didn't work out, but I love the front office and they did me right." we weren't going to get a ton back in return anyways. The return never mattered after a certain point. But if we can at least look at it like that and use that to our advantage, who knows what this could mean in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point, and that's exactly what I would say too. Is the most important thing to take away from this is, you don't see it too often. I can't say I know for sure. I would be willing to bet Poles could have got more than what he got from Pittsburgh if he wanted to. He could have just pulled the trigger and sent him wherever and been like, oh, they're going to give me a guaranteed 4th-round pick or guaranteed 5th-round pick. That's better than the conditional 6th Pittsburgh's giving me. All right, see you, Fields. You're going to go over to New York. We'll just use that as an example. But, you bring up a really good point, and that's really my big takeaway is it just shows that there's a relationship there. There's trust there. And that's huge for players, especially when they're switching teams or whatever the case may be. And not only is it, important for people to run things by Fields, but you got to remember too, like his agent probably has 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, hundreds of clients. Good point. So people share agents too. And, his agent can hopefully have nothing but good things to say and how they navigated that situation. Obviously, you never know what they'll say behind closed doors, but you would think just if all these reports are true and accurate and it came out of Fields' mouth, so it makes me believe that his agent would have a lot of good things to say about the Bears too, which obviously you like. And, hey, maybe since we're doing good things, we'll be rewarded with a Super Bowl. Good things happen to good people, right?
At the very least, you're positioning yourself for the future. You know what I mean? Like you said, with sharing an agent, I think it helps position them for the future. And who knows? Maybe down the road they're going to be interested in somebody that shares an agent with Justin Fields. And, due to this minor trade for the Bears to the Steelers, maybe we get lucky and land a guy. But that's it, guys. That's all I had today. Did you have any nuggets you wanted to add?
Nope. Just looking at some scores here since we talked about it. Looks like we got 8 minutes left and before half in the Wolves-Mavericks game. Timberwolves are up 39-32, and Panthers are up 1-0 in the second period. So,
okay.
Little update.
Interesting.
Little update for the listeners that'll already know the results of those games by the time they listen to this. But you know what? I'm a man of the people, so I'm just here to help.
Well, thank you guys for tuning in. If there's anything you want us to talk about, any drafts that you want us to do, any stories you want to hear our opinions on, we are live on all of our Instagram, on Facebook. We also do have a TikTok. We haven't posted on there quite yet. We have our YouTube page. So feel free to send us a message, leave a comment, let us know what you want to hear about, and we're happy to discuss in future episodes. So Thank you guys for tuning in. Sean?
We're also live on Apple Podcasts. So if that's how you like listening to your podcast, you can get us on there now. Kevin, always a pleasure. Listeners, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch y'all next week.
Yes, sir. Take care, guys.